Good afternoon. My name's Niles France, and I'm with the communications team at the Alzheimer's Association. Welcome to the Alzheimer's Association International Conference 2025, to both the people here in the room in Toronto and also those who are joining us on the Zoom. Welcome. In your reporting, please refer to the full name of the meeting on first reference, the Alzheimer's Association International Conference. Subsequent references can be to AAIC. As of today, we're proud to share that there are more than 18,400 people registered to attend AAIC this year, including both the scientific conference and also AAIC for All, which is on Thursday. This afternoon's news briefing is about the top-line results from the Alzheimer's Association's U.S. Pointer trial. For those in the room, please silence your cell phone, or preferably just turn it off. We don't want it ringing during the briefing. The embargo on this material is 2 p.m. Eastern Time today, which is also the beginning of the scientific presentation later this afternoon in Hall ABC. The AAIC news briefing moderator will introduce and wrap up the session and lead the Q&A. We will do 4 brief talks and then do the Q&A at the end of that. We'll take questions first from the journalists who are in the room, and then we'll go to the Zoom. In the room, please raise your hand, and you'll get called on from the podium. Please wait for the wireless mic to come to you so you can be heard both in the room and on the Zoom call. On Zoom, please type your question into the Q&A feature. Not the chat, the Q&A feature. And as many of them as possible will be read by our staff based on the available time. In order to accommodate the number of journalists who are attending, please keep your questions brief and only one follow-up. In all cases, please give your name first and the outlet that you're reporting for, and then ask your question. Please do not take photo or video of the slides or the screens. For journalists on site, the slides will be available after the briefing in the press office, room 714, which is right across the way. For journalists on the Zoom, if you're interested in a copy of the slides, please send us an email to AAIC2025@pcipr.com. I'll repeat that. AAIC2025@pcipr.com. To repeat, the embargo on the material in this news briefing is 2 p.m. Eastern Time today. All of the participants in this briefing must leave immediately at 1:30 to go to the scientific session, so interviews will not be possible right after this. However, they will be possible, and all of the speakers and participants will be available following the scientific session, starting roughly at 4:15, again in the press office, room 714. If you want to book an interview in advance, you can do it in that room if you're here, or again, send us an email to AAIC2025@pcipr.com. So our moderator this afternoon is Dr. Maria Carrillo. She is Alzheimer's Association Chief Science Officer and Medical Affairs Lead, and is also one of the principal investigators of U.S. Pointer and a co-author of the journal paper. Dr. Carrillo.
Thank you very much, Niles, and welcome to all of you. So to start, I'll just introduce that the U.S. Pointer study is the first large-scale randomized control clinical trial that is demonstrating an accessible and sustainable healthy lifestyle intervention can protect cognitive function in diverse populations and communities across the country. These initial results are being reported here for the very first time at the Alzheimer's Association International Conference, and a scientific paper is being published simultaneously with the presentation in the Journal of the American Medical Association. And so we're very pleased to be able to partner with JAMA on this. The Alzheimer's Association has invested over $50 million so far to lead this study. And we have had additional support from the National Institute on Aging within the National Institutes of Health for add-on studies that help us explore imaging results, vascular measures, sleep, and gut microbiome-related data. We're very excited to listen to those results, hopefully later, not with the top line. Those will be reported later in a conference in the fall. We thank the study participants, of course, primarily, and their family members. We want to thank staff leadership and that helped us conduct this trial all around the country, in particular Alzheimer's Association staff, and of course our study leaders, the academic teams, many of whom you will meet today, and the Alzheimer's Association funders, donors, through whose generosity we were able to fund the entirety of the study. During this embargoed news briefing, you will hear from 2 of our U.S. Pointer study leaders and 2 of the trial participants. Our first speaker is Dr. Rachel Whitmer. Dr. Whitmer is a professor of the Public Health Sciences and Neurology at University of California, Davis School of Medicine, and co-director of the UC Davis Alzheimer's Disease Research Center. She's led several studies on modifiable risk factors, as well as protective factors for cognitive impairment. And she is one of the co-principal investigators for this multi-center U.S. Pointer trial. Dr. Whitmer.
Thank you for that introduction. I'm so excited to be here, being part of this readout of this really landmark trial. I have disclosures. This is funded by the Alzheimer's Association and the National Institutes on Aging. So why is this a landmark study? Our objective in doing this study was to come away with a formula and a recipe that the public could learn of how to improve brain health. Some of the largest and most diverse multi-domain lifestyle intervention trials in the world have been completed for brain health. That is what US Pointer is. We enrolled more than 2,000 people, with more than 30% of them from populations and communities typically underrepresented in clinical trials. Everyone in this study is at risk for cognitive decline based on eligibility criteria that we see reflected broadly in the population. We had community partners at the table from the start, and we created the structure and the support that would make this come true. So why now? We all here in the room know that Alzheimer's disease and related dementias is one of the greatest public health challenges, both here and across the globe. We also know there's been lots of work from observational studies showing that lifestyle is associated with lower risk of cognitive decline. We've also seen a number of great studies that have focused on one risk factor. There's been studies on hypertension, or diet, or physical activity. But we are now at a point in the field where we need to look at these things in concert. We need to understand how multiple lifestyle changes can work together to improve brain health. And this was the direction that we took in this study. I'm sure some of you have heard about the finger study, and we wanted to really extend this and say, can what worked in Finland work here in the United States? So our goal was to compare the effects of two-year lifestyle interventions on cognitive change in older adults all at risk of cognitive decline and dementia. This is a single-blind, multi-center randomized clinical trial, and we enrolled participants at 5 sites: Northern California, Chicago, Houston, Rhode Island, and North Carolina. And we're very proud that we did this at these 5 sites across the US. This really reflects different cultures, different lifestyles, and probably an underlying background of potentially different behaviors. So who did we enroll? This study enrolled people ages 60 to 79. You could not exercise regularly, and you had to have a suboptimal diet. In addition, you had to have any 2 or more of the other 4 risk factors: 70 years or more, Black, African American, or Latino, and you had to have a family history of memory impairment, and you had to have cardiovascular risk factor. So you could have any 2 or more of those columns on your left. So who did we enroll? We ended up enrolling people that really represent the group in our country, our communities, and our populations at risk for future dementia. We have a high amount of people with a family history. We were able to get a good amount of people ages 40 and above. And we also had a large number of people who had high cardiovascular risk factors or prevalent cardiovascular disease at baseline at the start of the study. We took a very special approach in this study. We worked in concert very closely with the chapters of the Alzheimer's Association, and we employed a grassroots community approach. And this is something that really sets our clinical trial apart from others. We're very proud that 22% of our participants are recruited from grassroots community outreach. And this really sets the stage going forward for how to do not only lifestyle behavior changes, but also how to effectively recruit from the community in clinical research studies. So we were successful in recruiting a clinical trial cohort that is emblematic of an at-risk population in our country. We met goals of diversity and heterogeneity across multiple factors. Over 30% are from ethno-racial groups that have been underrepresented in clinical research, and in particular, very underrepresented in clinical trials. And this is really key because we know some of those groups are at higher risk for Alzheimer's disease and dementia. 30% of our clinical trial cohort had less than a college level of education, also very key. And we had high enrollment in our ancillary studies. Our grassroots yielded great success. So, in summary, we were able to enroll more than 2,000 people. They are all at risk, and we're very proud to say 89% completed the study. We had key community partners at the table and created a structure that really supported community grassroots recruitment and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Whitmer. Our next speaker is Dr. Laura Baker. Dr. Baker is a professor of internal medicine at Wake Forest University School of Medicine and Advocate Health, as well as associate director of the Wake Forest Alzheimer's Disease Research Center in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She has led or co-led several large non-pharmacological clinical trials focused on prevention of cognitive decline and dementia in older adults, and is also one of the principal investigators of this multi-center U.S.-pointed trial. Dr. Baker?
Thank you. Can I get the next slides, please? Oh, that's me. Okay. All right, fine. All right, let's start over. Welcome this afternoon, folks. Thank you for your interest in our study. I hope this comes through, but we are so proud to be part of this study, to have our participants with us, to represent us, and to speak for us. It has been a most magnificent journey since 2016, I think. First of all, there's my giveaway line. I have no disclosures other than it's funded by the Alzheimer's Association. Sorry about that. So let me get that back for impact. Here we go. I am happy to announce that we have a positive clinical trial, and I think this is a really important point in light of what Dr. Whitmer just shared, that this is an at-risk population. They have room for improvement. They need our help. They are going down a path of higher risk for decline, and yet we were able to bring them into the trial, retain them, and we have a positive clinical trial result to report. What we've learned is that we now know, from this trial, we now know that healthy behaviors matter for brain health. Through a rigorous trial, we know that now. All right, this is how we did it. This is what we measured. We needed to assess change and intervention using a single score. So what we did is we created a measure for global cognitive function. And global cognitive function, in our study, we wanted a single score, but there's 3 contributions: executive function, memory, and processing speed. And in the clinics where participants were getting assessed, we had multiple tests assessing each of these domains. We combined them and to develop a single score, and that's kind of an important point here. So this is what I'm going to show you. This is that single score, and what I'm showing you is a graph plotting that single score by intervention group from baseline through the 2-year intervention. What you see, first off, is that cognitive function improved for both groups. Both groups, the structured lifestyle intervention and the self-guided lifestyle intervention. These are the 2 interventions that we were testing. But importantly, the structured intervention had a significantly greater benefit over and above the self-guided on cognitive function over a 2-year trajectory. All right, what does this mean for real people? Our best estimate is an educated examination of existing data, looking at what we expect normal cognitive aging to be. How does it change normally over time? We apply what we found to those projected changes over time, and this is what we know. Compared to the self-guided group, participants in the structured group performed at a level comparable to adults 1 to 2 years younger. Okay? It looks like it slows the cognitive aging clock by 1 to 2 years, and that's the benefit of structured over and above the benefit of the self-guided. We believe that this relative improvement is predicted to increase resilience, and that's an important word for us, increase resilience against cognitive decline in the future for this group. Remember, our folks are cognitively healthy coming into the study. We need to watch them over time. Fortunately, the Alzheimer's Association has allowed us to continue watching these people for another 4 years. No intervention, observational only. We're going to continue to do the annual assessments. We will be able to answer this question a little bit more. What's the durability of the intervention? And tell us more about this relative benefit. Does it last? All right, let me tell you just a little bit of time about the interventions. We had 2. Rachel mentioned those a moment ago. We have 2 lifestyle interventions. One we referred to as the structured intervention. The structured intervention was named that way for a reason. We provided a highly structured program for an intervention. That structure came with all that you can imagine comes with structure. There was more support, more accountability. There was more details about what I'm supposed to do at any given time. So that was the key. We're going to tell you what to do, but we're going to help you get there. And we're going to work with you as a partner to meet you where you are. That was a really important part of Pointer. So the 4 domains that we focused on, actually not only for the structured group, but also for the self-guided, is physical activity, nutrition, cognitive and social challenge, and then health, knowing your numbers, your health metrics. So for the physical, I'm just going to go briefly. Physical exercise included aerobic, resistance training, and balance and stretching exercises. For nutrition, we helped participants adhere to the MIND diet, a diet that has been shown historically to have a benefit for brain health. We asked people to get out of their comfort zone on a regular basis when it comes to pushing yourselves to be socially more adventuresome, getting out there, connecting with people in a better way, testing yourself and learning new things in your life. So getting out of your comfort zone. And then also health coaching. Our participants met with a medical advisor a couple of times a year to not only review their health metrics, but also to set goals. So it's a little bit more support. Let's contrast that with the self-guided group. Now the self-guided group, the instructions that we gave participants was you get to decide what behavior you want to change. And then we are going to provide the support to allow you to hit your own goals. So they're in charge versus really participants are always in charge, but the idea, though, is the self-guided is going to guide themselves through a lifestyle change. Same 4 domains, physical activity, nutrition, cognitive social challenge, and health metrics, but the amount of support is less. The self-guided group, I failed to mention this a moment ago for the structured group. We needed to make sure that they had the adequate support. Both structured and self-guided groups have team meetings with peers who are assigned to the same group in their community, in the neighborhoods where they live. So these team meetings are the mechanism by which they receive both peer support and also expert support. Structured group had 38 team meetings over 2 years, self-guided 6 meetings over 2 years. So you can see what we're trying to manipulate here on the intervention controls. It's important to say for us, a rigorous trial depends on high adherence. Both interventions were adherent to the team meetings. They showed up more than 90% of the time, and all the adherence to each of the structured domains was also high overall. So what we learned in Pointer has to do not only with a prescription is important, yes. Knowing what to do is important, yes. We all know what to do, right? We think we do. What we learned in Pointer is it's the structure and the support that's needed for successful change and a durable change over time. I'm showing 2 pictures of participants in their teams to give you a sense of what life was like for them. We learned through Pointer that the structured program was provided, in Pointer, we provided a structured program, but then we adapted it to meet their specific needs. Importantly, we met them where they were, and that was our starting point. Program rollout was gradual to build confidence and ownership and ultimately mastery of their new habits. And regular support, goal setting, and accountability were key. This is not what happens when you're simply referred to your doctor to get some more exercise. Okay. Pointer principles for brain health. We've learned something that's key for the intervention, but we think it's important for people to know in the public things that they can start on right now while we begin to develop new programs to implement into the community. 1, move more, sit less. Add color to your plate. Learn something new and stay connected. Challenge yourself to do this on a regular basis and know your health numbers. Awareness changes behavior. So key takeaways from today, cognitive function improved for both groups, but the structured group intervention had a significantly greater benefit. This test of the Pointer lifestyle prescription provides a new recipe for Americans to improve cognitive function and increase resilience to cognitive decline. The structured lifestyle intervention is feasible. We learned that it is feasible. We learned that it is scalable to roll out into the community, not later, but now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Baker. Our next speaker is Peter Geisbers-Van Wyk. He is a U.S. Pointer participant, enrolled at the Houston clinical site. During the intervention phase of the trial, he was assigned to the self-guided group. Peter was born in a suburb in Antwerp, Belgium, and grew up in Rotterdam, Netherlands. After high school, he worked for a petrochemical inspection company and was transferred to Pasadena, Texas. There, he joined a chemical tanker company, and he has had several different positions, from port coordinator to customer service, and then retired after 32 years. Peter and his wife, Helena, have 1 child, Amy, who is here with him today. Please join me in welcoming Peter. Thank you, Peter, for being here.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Peter, and I'm a participant in the US Pointer study. I completed a 2-year intervention and now at the Pointer Alumni Program. I'm going to tell you about my experience as a participant by answering a few questions so that I can make sure I say everything I want to say. Here we go. Why did I participate in the Pointer study? I have a family history of dementia. My mother had early stage before she passed. I also had 2 aunts that had a severe form of it. I only have one child, and I thought it's important to have as much information as possible for both of us to reduce the risk. Why was I eligible for the study? You already heard that I had a family history of dementia, but I also at the right age, I had certain health conditions. When I started the study, I had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and previously had quadruple bypass. What was my experience in the self-guided group? I was placed on a team that included other self-guided participants, and we met with our study navigator 5 times over 2 years. In these meetings, I learned that brain health benefits from even simple exercise, like a brisk walk or using grocery bags for exercise. In our team meetings, focus was given to eating habits, not only what we eat, but also the amount. We were given general information about local programs and gyms and could reach out to our study navigator if we needed support. Everyone made their own decisions about which behavior they wanted to change. I decided to work on getting more daily exercise. I started to use a smartwatch and count my steps and activity, which I also could use to monitor my sleep. What challenges did I make in my lifestyle? I'm a person of habit, so making changes wasn't easy for me. I tried to eat more fruits and vegetables with every meal. I always drink water when I exercise, but I try to drink water more throughout the day. I try to choose things like granola bars for snacks. These are my day-to-day challenges. When I was in the study, unfortunately, my wife's health started to deteriorate. She was committed to home hospice and passed away 2 months after that. This was a very difficult time. When I was facing these big life changes and loss, it was hard to pay attention on small changes like eating more salad, but I continued to do my best. What challenges did other people on my team have for making lifestyle changes? My teammates said they had difficulty finding a local gym that was affordable, close enough, or had the hours that met their needs. Especially in Texas, during the summer months, it's too hot and humid to work outside. In the evenings, you're a meal to the mosquitoes. One person used a grocery cart to help him stabilize so we could walk around the store for exercise. Other people walked inside the malls. I was able to afford a smartwatch, but if we were given one as part of the study, it might have helped my other teammates to stay motivated. In addition, the pointer program would have been able to collect data so they could see how much exercise we really were getting. It would have been nice if we had more support, more meetings, or more direct check-ins with the navigator, because it's hard to do it all by myself. Do I expect that my life change in the study will have a lasting effect on my life? Now I do a 5-mile walk and try to do it daily. I park my car further away from the stores and walk. During the summer, I exercise in our neighborhood activity center, which has air conditioning and a treadmill. I volunteer at the community and plan to do the same at the MD Anderson Cancer Center. Not only passed my wife, but I myself a cancer survivor, and hope to pay it forward to the community by volunteering. In close, I would like to thank the professionals involved in the pointer study. In particular, I would like to thank my team, Team Ivy, and my navigators, Dimitro Selman and Arieli Perez, for all their support and the positive spirit they brought to our meetings and now in the alumni service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. We are greatly appreciative of you being here and sharing your story with us. Our next speaker will be Phyllis Jones, also a U.S. pointer participant at the Chicagoland site. During the intervention part of the phase, she was assigned to the structured group. Phyllis is a native of Chicago, where she had a 30-year career as a computer programmer, but has recently transitioned to software testing to stay connected with IT. And of course, have a little more enjoyment in her life and a little less stress. She's a proud mother of a son and daughter and the delighted grandmother of 2 beautiful granddaughters. They remain her greatest why in the fight against Alzheimer's. Phyllis?
Now, one of the things Dr. Baker said was they encouraged us to step out of our comfort zone for social things. I think I'm doing that right here. This is not something that I'm used to. So, good afternoon. To be here today as a participant, a witness, and now a voice is more meaningful than I can put into words. I want to begin by telling you about the version of me that I now call Phyllis BP, before Pointer. Looking back on that time in my life, I hardly recognized myself. I had spent years eating the standard American diet. I rarely exercised, and honestly, I was neglecting my health. Then life began to pile on. A layoff after 28 years at a job I loved, the death of my mother following her 8.5-year battle with dementia, the isolation of the pandemic, and the loss of other close loved ones. At the same time, I started a new job in a toxic work environment. The workplace stress became so intense that it resulted in a panic attack, complete with physical symptoms, and a trip to the ER. I was out of shape, I wasn't sleeping, I had become emotionally numb. My family and friends noticed too. I was circling the drain, and I felt it. Then I found out about the U.S. Pointer Study, a lifestyle intervention trial focused on preventing cognitive decline. The qualifications felt custom tailored to me. I ticked all the boxes, probably more than I'd like to admit. They found plenty of room for improvement in my numbers and in my lifestyle, so I got the call to proceed to the next phase in the selection process. That call may very well have been my lifeline. A full 2-year commitment. I was randomized into the structured group. We spent the first 4 months slowly learning and integrating the study's 4 core lifestyle pillars. The support was constant and personal, and because I saw it as an answered prayer, I gave it everything I had. Now, let's talk about what I gained and lost by being fully immersed in this experience. I gained a new lease on life. I'm no longer just waiting for life to pass. I'm enjoying the ride. I gained a sense of control over my health future, especially when it comes to diseases linked to metabolic health. I gained the power to break the generational cycle of dementia in my family. I gained a community and a purpose to give hope to others. I gained a network of incredible people, friends, mentors, and fellow advocates. But hey, full transparency here, because I also experienced some significant personal losses from being totally engaged in this study. I lost the title of pre-diabetic. My A1C has finally made it to the normal range. I lost the threat of being put on statins because I found my cholesterol under control. And although this was not a weight loss study, as a side effect, I lost 30 pounds and a foot. Well, actually 11.5 inches around my waistline. I lost chronic joint pain, and with it, the occasional need for knee and ankle stabilizers. And most importantly, I lost the belief that pain and decline are just normal parts of aging. Some may ask, was it hard to commit? And that's a great question. The hardest part was deciding I was worth the effort. Once I embraced the structure, everything else followed. This journey has changed me, and I'm just getting started, because once I learned that dementia affects the Black community at twice the rate of my white counterparts, I knew this could no longer be just my story. I visited one of my uncles and shared what I was doing, and his response, so, when are you going to start your workshop? When you learn something this powerful, you have to share it. And that brings me to who I am today. I'm Phyllis AP, after Pointer. I'm energized, I'm living with purpose, and I'm doing everything I can to reach out to those who may be feeling what I once felt, hopeless, afraid, or alone, because there is hope. And while participating in the U.S. Pointer Study, I learned that it's found in small, consistent changes and in communities that lift each other up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Phyllis, for sharing your story. Very inspiring to hear both Peter and Phyllis. So I want to remind you that all these materials are embargoed until 2 p.m. Eastern Time today. And I want to share with you that one of the most common questions we do get at the Alzheimer's Association is, how do I prevent Alzheimer's? What should I be doing today in order to improve my health and prevent AD? Prevent dementia, prevent cognitive decline as I age? That's a great question. And for us, at least for the 20 years that I've been with the Alzheimer's Association, we've had a lot of strong evidence to suggest different things that people could do. But we didn't have that rigorous, prospective, randomized controlled trial that in a population that was generalizable. And that is why we brought the U.S. Pointer Study to the United States after learning of its success in Finland. So this is a very bold move for the Alzheimer's Association to actually try to replicate a study done somewhere else in a larger country that is very diverse and has a very different diversity in terms of also educational level and socioeconomic background. So not only did we bring together the study team that worked on it, and you see some of them on this stage, and you'll see them later also in the presentation, but we also ensured that we were the primary funder and that the delivery of this intervention was done through the community in partnership with our chapter network. We do have offices all over the country, and so this was the perfect study for the Alzheimer's Association to conduct on behalf of the people we serve, all of us in this room, including, of course, because we are a global organization. So the most important thing you heard here is that cognitive function was improved over time in both groups, but the structured intervention led to a significantly greater benefit. And as you heard earlier, our conservative estimate does show that relative to the self-guided group, participants in the structured group performed at a level comparable to adults 1 to 2 years younger in age, an effect that likely increases their resilience against cognitive decline. And who does not want that? So this is very important, of course, as we've been testing this U.S. Pointer prescription for the past 7 years with a 2-year intervention for brain health. It is now time to transition the Pointer brain health recipe to the rest of America. So what you saw today are these fantastic initial results. And we will now, as an organization, be trying to bring this a comprehensive picture of what this looks like with additional biological markers, because we have gathered that information. It will not be reported here, but we are very interested in testing those blood samples and those imaging results from participants that they have so bravely donated to us during the course of their participation. This is a critical public health opportunity. We cannot miss this moment. The Alzheimer's Association is very proud to announce that we will be expanding the U.S. Pointer into communities nationwide. We have already invested about $50 million in this study. We have an additional investment, as you just heard from Dr. Baker, to ensure that participants are followed for an additional 4 years. But we also will be creating multiple opportunities to partner with agencies across the country, health systems as well as clinics, to ensure that this information is disseminated as widely as possible. Now we'll open it up for questions from journalists. As you heard earlier, our journalists in the room will have priority. There are microphones that will go around to you. Please ensure that you start with your name and the name of your outlet, and then please keep your questions as concise as possible so we can get to as many as we can before we have to move directly to the scientific presentation, and then afterwards we'll have everybody available for interviews across the hall. Any questions right now from those in the room, and then after we exhaust those, we will go to the virtual Zoom. Questions from journalists for anyone on this stage? Yes, microphone coming to you.
Thank you. Tony Daring from NJ.com and the Star Ledger in New Jersey. I'm wondering, there's more attention now to the people at midlife. and their risk factors kind of believe that the lifestyle of middle-aged people is trending in a bad way. Can and will this be translated not to just this population and this age group, but brought to people of middle age?
Absolutely, good question, and I think Dr. Whitmer would be appropriate to answer that question since she has studied this.
Yes, thanks for that question. There's a plethora of evidence that risk factors at midlife are very strongly associated. All of those risk factors that have been studied in midlife were addressed in this study. And that's why it's so fantastic, because we know that we can move the needle. And the youngest age in the study was 60. So a lot of the midlife work was for people in their 40s and their 50s, focusing on cardiometabolic risk. But that was a major domain in this study to see how, as part of our lifestyle intervention prescription, can we change those same risk factors.
I think the only thing I would add is that as the Alzheimer's Association, working with our colleagues to expand the study, we're not going to go out and say, only for over 60, right? We're going to actually ensure that all communities understand what the benefits look like. Yes, they were studied in people over 60, but it is never too early to start.
And we know that from the observational data that this is applicable at all ages. You know, we always say this is something that shows up late in life, but it is a process that is reflective of a lifetime. So.
Another question here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Joe Rusko from Practical Neurology, the Journal. Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to ask about any plans for an add-on study to look at the economic impact of lifestyle interventions and scaling it out to the whole population, yeah.
So I can start by saying that the Alzheimer's Association is going to make an announcement in the scientific session where we are going to partner, at least to start, with 10 communities across the country in order to test our ability to implement the study. The science of implementation is going to be very important, and so we are going to partner. You'll see that in the next hour, and we are very hopeful that we can get more information about that from that partnership.
Can I say something
And absolutely,
here too?
Dr. Baker.
So throughout, I mean, our goal from day one was, if it's a positive result, we're not going to take another 5 years to roll this out into the community. We have to know what to do just a couple of months later. So that's kind of been our mindset from day one. So we've been working with community partners. But as we were rolling this out, we were mindful of cost. And so now, as we're getting closer to implementation, you know, it's like, okay, what's the key ingredients? What do you need to actually, if you're going to roll this out in the community, what do you need? And I think we boiled it down. I'm sure maybe it's an oversimplistic perspective, but for now, what was key is kind of what I mentioned there. The key is the expert facilitation of a caseload. We'll start using patient terms now. Expert facilitation of a group of people, and then resources that are in the community that are accessible to those folks. So it's two ingredients. It's full-time work for caseworkers. These could be social workers. They could be expert lifestyle coaches. We have these people in our communities in the United States, at least, and I imagine they're all over the world. And also, it'd be very easy enough for the association to partner with healthcare systems to train these individuals up. So we're talking about a person who would take a large caseload, and we would meet with people in groups to help them navigate. It was that group dynamic that was so important in Pointer. So I think it's feasible that a single person could have a caseload of 100 to 200 people. So that's really not a big expense to roll this out.
Mm-hmm. But we'll be testing all of that, of course, as well. Other questions? And maybe a question from the virtual journalists will be read out.
So we have a question from Liz Szabo from NBC News and AARP. What sort of practical changes will participants see, or did participants see in their lives and functioning after improvements in the study? Did they stop losing their keys, start doing the Sunday crossword? And by how many years did people in the self-guided group benefit compared to the untreated controls?
The first part of the question, let's address that, and I think Peter and Phyllis should maybe perhaps share their thoughts. So can you repeat the first part of the question?
So to repeat the first part for you folks, what are the types of changes you saw? Did you stop losing your keys? Did you start doing the Sunday crossword more? What are the translatable effects that you saw? And I think, Phyllis, you spoke a little bit to that as well.
Yeah, I can take that one. You know, what I noticed for me is it feels like once I started moving and eating healthy and, you know, and the whole thing of opening up socially, I felt different, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally. So I'm able to connect with people a lot better. Look at me, I'm up here, I'm talking to you guys. This was not Phyllis BP, this is Phyllis AP you're talking to. This is after Pointer. I would have not ever done this before that. So one of the things that I noticed is we went through the beginning of Pointer when we were getting on board with the first 4 months, you know, and that was a process because we had to learn what we were doing, and there was more of a commitment then. We had to go in once a week. We had homework. We had to get this stuff on board. And after that 4 months, then I decided, okay, it's time for me to get back out there and find another job. I applied for 3 jobs. I got 3 job offers. When I first started at this new job, like I said, when I first started on U.S. Pointer before that, I was in pretty bad shape, emotionally, mentally. I was actually clinically depressed. I did not move fast at all, didn't think fast. So I started this new job. And of course, they got teams and there's group chats. And it was so hard in the beginning because I could not keep up with the chats. You know, it's coming, it's going, and it's like, oh my God. Now it's no problem at all. You know, I'm right in there with the young people, you know. I'm able to follow the conversation. I'm able to respond as quickly as I need to now. It was not like that before Pointer.
Thank you. Peter, is there anything you want to add, or?
I would say I started to volunteer to get more social. After my wife passed, I started to volunteer to get more social contact. And I think it brings you quite a bit of joy. Plus, you get to know your community a little bit better. One of the problems we have in Texas, like I live outside of Houston. I don't think I can even take public transportation from my house to Houston. So right away, I'm bound to use a car. Whereas people that live, let's say, in New York or Boston, they have good public transportation and they get quite a bit more activities. I need to go out, I need to drive to the park to do my walking. So I think but now that I know that even a brisk walk, instead of having to run or doing intensive exercise, benefits, I think that gave me quite a bit of confidence that, okay, I can do my walking.
Great, thank you very much. And the second part of the question, I think, might have been for Dr. Baker and for Dr. Whitmer.
By how many years did people in the self-guided group benefit compared?
Dr. Baker, do you want to answer that?
You know, this is the most common question that we've had in the last several days. And my common answer is, I can't answer that. That it's a complex mix of behaviors that describes an improvement with the self-guided group. There is practice that's due to familiarity. And the only way we can separate practice from true change is the randomized controlled trial. So the only way I can separate that is to look at the extra benefit of the structured group. So I don't know how much is practice and how much is improvement, so we can't answer that now. But I have to say, the 4-year observational study, we will be able to watch those trajectories over time. The practice won't be there anymore. It'll be gone. So what we see, the durability of what we see is going to be more revealing for us in the future.
Thank you. We have a question in the room.
Hi, George Heaton, ALTS Forum. Did you have an untreated control group?
We did not. That was a very intentional decision.
Can you expand on that, Dr. Baker? And
Yeah, sure.
Share why?
So at the very beginning, we thought long and hard about should we have a usual care. So, you know, if you do research with animals, you don't have to ask their opinion about whether usual care is acceptable to you, right? We are dealing with human beings who are all living, 78% of our people have a family history. And so we felt like it was our ethical responsibility to provide something for everyone. They are trusting us, coming to us because they have a family history. We felt like we need to be creative and figure out how to provide something for everyone. It comes at a cost to not have a flatline placebo group. But I feel like, I still feel in retrospect that we made the right decision. It makes it harder for us now to know truly what was the absolute. But fortunately, we do have two groups. We did see an extra benefit over and above the comparator group, although it was an active comparative group. So it was an intentional decision for ethical reasons predominantly.
Online question, thank you.
An online question, that's a pretty good follow-on to that.
Thank you.
Richard Gowell from Helio asks, will participants in the self-guided group have an opportunity to engage in the structured intervention?
Dr. Baker?
Well, you know what? That's going on right now in its own way. In the observational extension, we have these, we haven't mentioned this yet, but what we wanted to make sure is at the end of that, every year we're seeing people for 4 years, and what typically happens, in these observational periods and after a clinical trial is those who are healthy stay, those who are sick drop. We are trying to prevent that so we can have a better understanding of what's really going on with the trajectory of brain change over time. So what we're doing is we have these community events every month in every one of our cities. And they're varied. Sometimes we're focused on brain challenge, an intellectual challenge. Sometimes it's a Zumba class, and sometimes it's a cooking demonstration. Sometimes it's a know your numbers conversation with the doctor. So in these meetings, all self-guided and structured groups meet together. Everybody is treated the same. The same information is provided to everyone. Today we had a participant webinar where we shared all the results before this meeting. We shared with both teams what exactly the other group was doing. We will be sharing that information with them. They've already asked, can we have what the other group have? And so we will definitely be sharing that. But the main thing is in these retention events, in our observation, everyone's together. We treat everyone the same. We give everyone equal opportunity to do whatever they need to do, whatever they choose to do at this point to stay healthy.
Thank you. Other questions from the room? Any other virtual questions? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to bring Niles France up one last time in order to give us our instructions for the next step. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Dr. Carrillo and all four of our other panelists. If you want to acknowledge them, please go ahead. Okay, Dynamite. Just to repeat, the embargo on this material is 2 p.m. Eastern today. Now, of course, all the participants are leaving right now. They have to go to the 2 o'clock science session in Hall ABC. So for all of the journalists here and the others who are interested in hearing more, hearing the science in another level of depth, if you want some more clarity on what it means to study 2 interventions as opposed to an intervention and a placebo, go to the scientific session or watch it in the virtual platform, and you'll be able to get an additional level of detail. After that session, all of those good folks are going to be coming back up here. So roughly 4 o'clock, 4:15. If you're interested in interviews, you can do them at that time. If you're here in the room, we're starting to schedule them in 7:14 right now. If you're covering this virtually, please send an email to AAIC 2025 at pcipr.com. That's AAIC 2025 at pcipr.com to schedule an interview with the scientists or the participants. Again, thank you very much for attending. We appreciate your interest in these issues and your attendance at this press briefing. Have a great afternoon.